next movie on our list is Cuckoo. Cuckoo, directed by Tilman Singer, written by Tilman Singer, stars Hunter Schafer,
What's up?
Jan Bluthardt, Martin Kozakas, and also the British guy Dan Stevens. Great to see Dan Stevens in there. So IMDb just says one line: a 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. Doesn't really tell you anything. So she's an American girl. She has to go over to Austria to live with her dad, who's now married to someone else and has got another daughter with someone else. And they live out in this sort of like rural mountains in Austria somewhere. It's not like one of the big cities or anything. And yes, things aren't as they seem. Everything's a bit strange. Even she's a bit strange. The daughter herself, the character, she's, it's not quite right. It's like something's happened, something traumatic here. Everyone around them's a bit of a weirdo, to the point of, Dan Stevens' character, for example, is this doctor that's sort of, I don't know what he's supposed to be doing. You think you're trying to figure it out. You're like, what the hell's going on here? And the young daughter's got something to do with it. She ends up getting a job in the hotel, meant to be working behind the reception. Some really weird things happen there, and you're thinking, what's going on here? Because she's trying to get out of there, and she doesn't want to be there. She wants to go back to America, really. But it's a question of how she's going to do that. Then this another young lady comes into the hotel. They kind of strike it up. They have a little bit of a passionate fling, and it's like, let's get out of here. That doesn't quite work out either. And she ends up back there, and she keeps getting worse injuries all the time. She's like got this cut on her head, this bandage, and something else happens, and her arm's in a sling. And it kind of reminds me of that film Kate with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, where she's like just getting worse and worse injuries the whole time. I liked Hunter Schafer's performance. Thought she did well as that kind of kooky, strange, nerdy kind of character. It was almost like, remember that movie Brick?
Yes. Yes.
Ryan Johnson one. It was kind of like she was a sort of, not your typical hero character, kind of like an oddball that's thrown into the middle of this as the hero. And then obviously things go on and you find out what's happening. There's been some crazy shit going on with experimenting on people and how they are brought into the world, so to speak, which involves her sister, and supposed to be some sort of almost like supernatural element to it, because there's this crazy old woman chasing them down everywhere as well in the woods. So there was a horror element to it, but also a kind of thriller element to it as well, where there was kind of a little bit of guns and action and you had to survive. I didn't think it was a 10 on 10. It wasn't like a fantastic film, but I thought it was quite original. I enjoyed the vibe of it. So over to you. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. I'd say it's that indie vibe stuff, and it's kind of a classic situation. Move out to the middle of nowhere, something strange starts happening, We know those story beats. All the local people are weird when they arrive. Of course, this is like the Wicker Man type thing, all these different kind of films. It's that scenario is starting to play out, but as you say, it all starts to become weirder and all these things. Great cast and good performances from everyone, and it does keep you intrigued.
Yeah.
They do a good job of building stuff up. You got this whole thing where her sister keeps having seizures, especially when like these noises playing. It's like a thing, and they do this thing where the kind of camera is like shaking and zooming in, out, zoom in. It's a very interesting thing to watch. Being someone who has epilepsy, there's a thing you call an aura, which is kind of the feeling before you're about to have a seizure.
Right.
And it's a very similar thing, really. It's kind of like it's like the top of your brain is tingling, and the spatial awareness is starting to disintegrate. And so I think they did a very good job of kind of capturing that in a way.
Yeah.
And then they do this whole thing where the same thing plays out 2 or 3 times, because this plays and then it's kind of like they go back and they're doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
Again, which ties into like this whole thing of you get like memory loss when having seizures and stuff.
Yeah.
Like short-term memory loss. So I thought they did a really interesting thing with that and how they were playing with it. the film's not really about that, but it's an interesting tie-in. And then the whole thing ends up being about this whole kind of, what would you call it, kind of insemination, procreation experiments, and this whole thing.
Usually it's like with the Omen or something, it's like to produce the Rosemary's Baby, the spawn of Satan, or to produce the saviour of the universe. So it was somewhere in between, wasn't it? It was supposed to be...
Well, it felt more... I enjoyed it a little bit more because it was like, it's just like a scientist around, and it's about... It was more like Jurassic Park or something, in terms of, we're going to create... There's certain creature that it can't procreate in a normal way. It has to use a host body and stuff. So it's an interesting concept all the way through. And the story beats were really interesting. Some good action in there, and all these different things happened that you were like, okay, this is good. So I enjoyed it. Again, with a lot of these films, it's the ending. And I think that the last part of the film was 15, 20 minutes too long. It was dragging. You knew the answer. Yeah. The answer had explained itself. But now you're dragging this last bit out and out. And it was like, for God's sake, just tie this up now, because we know the answer. There's nothing more to say.
I enjoyed it, though. Of all the sort of recent things I've watched... that could be somehow classified this kind of genre, mystery, horror, thriller kind of thing. This was one of the better ones, I thought. I quite enjoyed
it was solid and enjoyable, and it didn't, offend my intelligence or anything like that. So it was good and solid. As you say, it wasn't like a 10 out of 10, brilliant, but a good, 7.
7, 8.
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd advise people to give it a whirl anyway to see what they think. If you have, as we always say, give us your thoughts. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments. That would be really interesting to hear your opinions on Cuckoo. But for me, I give it a thumbs up. I enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. The best way to support this channel is by dropping us a like and subscribing. Other ways to support us include Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon. This video was sponsored by funkyt-shirts.co.uk. Check out their website for a full range of awesome t-shirt designs. You can find all the links in the description.